So Tyrell, I just thank you. We thank you. Everything with me is a partnership. It's a collaboration. It's teamwork. And
Yeah.
so, if you just briefly give some great words, and we're going to jump into this conversation about men and mental health.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Pleased to be here, representing for the men, the fathers, the black men in particular. But yeah, I'm real thankful to be here. Hoping to impart some of my 10 plus years of lessons of learning of living through this new journey that my wife and I began, and it still feels new in a lot of ways, even 10 years into it, which I think is a good thing. But I'm real thankful and excited about this conversation, and hopefully I can add some nice nutrients to the soil and continue to help this conversation and this space grow. So thank you for this opportunity.
What was instilled in you as a young black man growing up in America as far as dealing with emotions?
Well, emotions. First off, there it was a limitation on them as far as what kind of emotions were out there. So I definitely knew about anger. Anger was like probably saw or taught as one of the strongest emotions, as the one you should utilize the most. That is what will help either propel or expand your so-called manhood. So anger was a big one that was kind of utilized around many of those male figures around me, but also was something that I saw in TV and different things of that nature. Even first thing that came to mind was Tom and Jerry, kind of that. It wasn't like we don't like each other. It was just kind of like gritty, beat you with an iron type of aggressiveness that was very cool to do or be a part of. Uh, then there was the opposite of that, or at least what I was taught was kind of like an opposite, which was some of the quote unquote weaker emotions like sadness, even happiness. I think was a little bit kind of skewed. Like it depends on what you were happy about. Couldn't really be too happy about things that were soft. You had to be now if you were happy about like your car or how many girls you had or something like that, cool. But if you were like happy because you were in love, for example, or if you were happy because your shirt just felt nice, it didn't just look nice, but it just felt good on your skin. It was like something like that would definitely be like, whoa, what are you doing? So yeah, emotions were these kind of complicated things, but there it was very limited. There was like those three were kind of the main ones, and the rest of them were either it was either my job or at least my role as a male to either be able to suppress those things or just be comfortable with being quote unquote weird, the weird kid, which definitely became part of my identity. But yeah, so I think that would kind of sum up how emotions were viewed in my upbringing.
I have another question. What does it mean to be, because you said you were identified as the weird kid. So
Hmm.
growing up, being a young black male, what does it mean to be the quote unquote weird kid?
Well, I think it's layers to it. Kind of depends on what your interests are, but usually the weird kid has this laser focus on what they like. Like they don't necessarily care about uh, everybody, especially at a younger age where you're trying to kind of be impressionable. Uh, I definitely had that where I wanted to impress others and be liked and different things like that. But I didn't mind also enjoying reading. Like I really liked like Malcolm X and stuff like that. One of my best friends, or yeah, best childhood friends, used to dress up in this tuxedo every day. He was like, we were like in fifth grade. This kid dressed up, and anyway, a lot of the kids that thought that was like weird or would make jokes about him, he was real confident about it. Like man, y'all tripping. Like this is what Martin Luther King used to dress like. And so he, he thought it was fly, and I liked that he liked it. And so me and him clicked, and we kind of still talk to this day. So anyway, the weird kid was usually very sure about what they liked and what they were interested in, or at least sure enough to stand in it and be confident in it. But it was outside of the norm. So it wasn't just, I'm going to use some cliches. It wasn't just like basketball. You didn't just like rappers and stuff like that. You didn't just like cars and know what kind of car. Like I didn't know nothing about cars. Like a car can drive by and the homies be like, oh man, that's a '86 Chevy or whatever it was, and I'll just be like, I don't know what that means. So that would, a lot of, so a lot. I was easy to kind of make jokes about, although I could stand my own too. I don't want it to seem like I was like bullied or nothing. I can shoot the dozens with them, but still, that those things that were kind of like outside of the box were deemed weird, just meaning it's not something I'm used to. It wasn't necessarily probably as painful as it might have been subconsciously. Like at the time, it didn't feel like, oh man, they're attacking me. It's just like, oh, they're saying that what I'm doing or what I'm interested in is different from them. And so I just kind of accepted that. But um, yeah,
Me as a female, when I went through my first heartbreak, my mama was there, like, it's just puppy love and it'll be better. And just because she said that didn't make my hurt go away. But I still had my mama there holding me, babying me, whatever she needed me to do. I believe what young women go through, young men go through it too, but it's
sure.
just not on the same side of the wall. So,
Hmm.
do you recall being a younger or a teenager and just being like, man, this don't feel right. What do I do with this? Whether it had to do with a relationship with a young lady or even your friends, because your friends can tend to sting you and maybe not be aware of that sting because you don't let on that bothered you.
Yeah. So yeah, I first off, yes, I've experienced that in both of those kind of situations, whether that be a relationship that I was devoted to, if you will, that early love or things that you think is love at the time, and even just friendships who that seem to be moving in a direction that I maybe didn't expect, um, where I was kind of creating a lot more rigidness in what my definition of a friend was. So I sometimes was very possessive of my friends because I had such a kind of tight knit group. So a lot of things like uh, betrayal, if you will, is these trust and different things like that would wouldn't take much as far as it being activated for me. So I liked, if I wasn't in the circle, where with the crew, I felt that they were othering me. I felt as if there was something that I maybe didn't have or they didn't like that made them not want to include me. So this is one of the benefits that think my particular father had on me was, even though he was very specific, I will call it. I'm going to resist words like masculine, because I think that gets narrowed down to something very specific. But my dad did limit his expressions of emotion, but I think he understood that I wasn't quite like him, and um, allowed space, kind of breathing room for me to engage and kind of bump my head a little bit. So he would do the kind of pulling back a little bit, like, man, what? Okay, so you know, what if what if you didn't invite such and such to a kickback and y'all was hanging out, and he felt like you felt right now. Would you think that was valid? And so talking me through those things and kind of helping me see this different perspective, um, was very powerful, because then it was like it wasn't a quite um, remove or pushback against you feeling those things. It wasn't like a, oh, you'll be all right type of washing over them. It was this kind of like conscious thing of like, hey, look at this from a different perspective. And if your answer is still the same, okay, you might have something wrong with it. But if your answer is like, nah, that sounds kind of stupid, why would I be tripping over that? Okay, yeah, now you can make a change. Even with relationships, right? With this one particular time, and I'm thankful that I haven't had that much heartbreak that I was always receiving, or
Mhm.
even giving, for that matter. But anyway, I digress. Um, my dad wasn't so much like, yo, don't feel for these O's and different things like that. But I mean, he had that in him. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. But it seemed as if there was times where he was able to engage with me in a way without so many words. It was never like a put your arm around me and son, I love you. You can cry to me or nothing. But it also wasn't a flat out like don't ever cry. Like real men don't cry. Like I know people that have heard that and that
Mhm.
was raised thinking like that. And so I'm thankful that I didn't really have that kind of intenseness, if you will, for lack of a word, put on what it is I was supposed to be experiencing, but also sharing, as far as emotions go. So, yeah, I am extremely thankful for that brother for that.
So he actually helped you to have a process. And I think that's one of the things that is missing
Sure,
for people of color in general. Culturally, anything that has to deal with mental incapacities, it's like it's a curse. You that I grew up within a family of what goes on in this house stays in this house. I grew up with that. I really did.
sure,
But you had, I would say, an advantage because you had the leeway of looking at processes. And
sure.
so many people don't know where to begin with a process. So many people, all they know is, "Ooh, I'm feeling something and it don't feel good." So some people say, "I'm going to ignore it."
Hmm. Yeah.
Some people, it just breaks them down and they're paralyzed.
Hmm.
So it's so many ways, but I'm here. I'm thinking about you sharing your experience with your dad, and he really did give you, like you said, that space to bump your head. But then he gave you examples where you could think that give you a different view.
Hmm.
He gave you conversation to give you a different view, and that to me is definitely different, especially when it comes to men of color, because there's a stigma, like I said, with women. we have those soft spaces. And I'm not speaking for all women, because some women have
Sure.
no idea how to deal with anything mental. Anything that comes close to them, they shut down like a safe. But I was thinking, it was just last year when Twitch committed suicide.
Mhm.
And what I heard most and what I saw most was, how did this happen? Like, that was the in general question of, like, how did it? But for one, this is a man, he on TV with Ellen DeGeneres. He does his choreography and all kinds of positive videos. But how did that happen?
Mhm.
One thing that's for sure, there was some pain. It was some pain somewhere.
Mhm.
And so to hear that you had the advantage of, even if you didn't understand at the time,
Sure.
you had some foundational pieces of how to process some things.
Yeah.
So as you got older, okay, out of teenage years, now you stepping out into life, knowing what it feels like to be treated some kind of way just because you're a black man. How does that play a part in your mental well-being, or what are some things that you do now, because now you are a husband, you are a father, you are a boss at work, you are a friend.
Mhm.
um I'm not sure if you do have siblings, right? You have siblings.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah. I'm an
are
older for five.
you're an older sibling, you
Right.
know. So what I know your processes that you were taught early on still play a part in what you do today, but there's many
Yeah.
different dynamics that you see today because you wear different hats.
Yeah.
So how how does your interaction in a family life, or even in a friendship life with someone, what gives you that capacity to say, okay, I need a minute.
Whoa.
Oh Lord, I
So,
flipped them out.
you
I was
did.
like, he needed a minute for real. Hold on. I was like, Lord, are you trying to tell us something? But
See, right. And this is why hopefully all of your future guests will have their own stands for their camera. How'd that go? So here's where some of the limitations of my father started to present, and not to discredit him at all, of
Hmm.
course. But
Hmm.
by us being my father and mother are very young. They were 15 and 14 when I was born. So they because we have all grown together. Uh,
Hmm.
when I started to get into that phase of my growth, my upbringing, um, my father didn't have as much to offer me. It was almost as if there was this level that I had reached that was equal to his,
Hmm. Hmm.
and there wasn't a thought of, well, let's proceed together. It felt like, let me say, it felt like there was a, when the hell did you get up here?
Right, right.
And then on the other side was a, damn nigga, I'm right here with you, bro. I hope that makes sense to the listeners.
It
So
does to me. It does to me.
when
What
that
do you think
occurred,
about that, Shamika? How did it, did that kind of help? And I think the reason why I get it, um, I've always been a little girl in love with her dad, even for the
okay,
years that he was not able to be there. And I believe I have a different view of my dad. So my parents were young parents too. My mother was 16 when she got pregnant with my oldest brother. And 2 years later came my brother above me. 2 years later came me. And so um, my dad today, he suffers from PTSD, post traumatic uh, post traumatic syndrome, uh, for many reasons. He was in Nam, is one reason. My dad grew up in an era of time when he was chased home by white boys from school, and I have experienced his mental moments, or I have been able to be aware of his agitations. At 72 years old, my father was attacked by a 26-year-old white guy just a few years ago. So when you have post traumatic stress disorder and you get attacked as an elder, as a senior, it just intensifies it. And I think because of the era of time that he came through, or that's rooted in him, I kind of have to be the psychiatrist now,
Mm. Yeah.
because that trust for strength is just, no matter what the stranger looks like. It can be a stranger that look just like him, but at this point, he doesn't have the capacity to go sit on somebody's couch and just let loose of everything that's on the inside of him. So there are some moments that I know he's in a mood of just talking to get some stuff off of him. And I try to
Mm.
be open to that. I don't weigh myself down as being his therapist. I just know I'm his daughter. And I know that he trusts me.
Mhm.
And so I don't add that pressure on me, but I watch his dynamics, because like you said, you got to that point to where y'all were kind of the same. I almost feel like I'm at an evolved space for him where he can let a little bit out at a time, whatever he's feeling at that moment. Cause we done had some head to head, but it would be moments when after the fact I would know he was in distress.
Mhm.
It would be after the fact, after we done went at it, and then it would dawn on me, he whatever was going on, he was agitated, not making excuses, because he would always come back and apologize, but I would know after the fact he was in distress. What he said to me didn't even have nothing to do with me, but it's that mental thing of, you don't talk to nobody, you don't tell nobody that you're hurting, you hold it,
Yeah.
because he doesn't know how to.
Mhm.
And I think that's what you were expressing and what you said, because you and your dad, y'all were right there together. So he
Yeah.
didn't have any place for you to parallel to, because y'all was
Mhm.
right there together.
And I'm, you know, thankfully, like he is in a space where he's seeking out therapy and things, because it is changing. The narrative is changing. The want to do better is
Hmm.
improving as
Hmm.
well. And one of the blessings, I'm in a space now where I get to really focus on things working out the way they're supposed to all the time. The beauty of that, the gift of my father having these quote unquote limitations, as I have described, is that it helped me seek answers elsewhere, and without that seeking and that looking, um, without, but also within, that looking, trying to find a deeper meaning, um, from the inside out, really helped me find that, father is a broad spectrum and scope, and
Hmm.
there can be people that did not birth you, uh, that can
There,
help
there you
father
go, Shamika.
certain movements, certain vibrations, that helps you see things from a much clearer perspective. And I will say this spiritual journey, um, has been a very powerful one that has helped expand not just my ideas of what is possible, which is definitely going to impact my future generations, which
Mhm.
of course my father's future generations now as well.
Mhm.
But it also helps mend some of the past, and that has been a very helpful tool. Going back to your question, in this newer season of my life, that is a little more independent of my father, right? Because you're supposed to grow past your not past, but you're
Well,
and this is one
beyond.
of the
Yeah.
yeah, this is one of the things that personally I think as what I've learned from parenting is like, oh, this is where I think a lot of parents kind of drop the ball at is that 0 to 5, 0 to 8, 0 to 9, those, them kiddie stages traps you into this thought that no, you actually do control this thing, this person.
Mhm.
You are responsible for this person's success or failures. And
Mhm.
that is not true. That is something we tell ourselves because we're confusing love with control.
Mhm.
But that is
Mhm.
a completely different conversation, kind of. But anyway, I digress a little bit. I think being able to sit with some of these principles and practices has been helpful at just slowing me down a little bit and helping bring out, I think, some of those necessary emotions, but
Mhm.
also that necessary flexibility that I think will make me and my father more dynamic individuals. Because now I get to engage with him from a different perspective. I'm not judging him
Mhm.
because I somehow know some stuff that he don't. I'm not looking down at him or
Yeah.
anything like that. And so now I can approach it from this whole different angle, and we can create a bond and a relationship that's multi-layered that he didn't get the chance to experience with his father,
Mhm.
and then his that father didn't get, so we can now break some generations of build up, we'll
Mhm.
call it,
Mhm.
that hopefully can help not just the kids that I'm birthing, but also the kids that I hope and plan to impact, whether it's mentoring, whether it's spaces and podcasts like this, where you're engaging with these broader communities
Mhm.
and just showing that, man, there are some options out here. There are some ways for you to be happy, but not in the
Mhm.
happy-go-lucky way,
Yeah.
but in the calming, I feel good about who and where I am and what I've been through. Um, those are powerful things to be able to tap into and have at your disposal.
And I think also sometimes people separate emotional well-being from mental well-being. A
Sure.
lot of times people think that mental strictly has to do with this one thing,
Mm,
not understanding that your emotional well-being or your instability in emotions can transcend into mental oppositions.
mm,
And I think that people also have to understand it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And I know that is kind of trending as words now.
sure.
It's okay to admit that you're not okay. As trending as it may be, that's it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Even for me getting feedback from people when I'm around that you're so energetic and just you always upbeat. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm cool with saying that I'm not. Everybody's not cool with saying, "Hey, I'm messed up today. I'm really messed up today." As a matter of fact, I actually was invited to a birthday gathering, and I was just like, I'm just not feeling myself. Maybe it was because and I needed to be here doing this. Um, so my next question for you is, um, have you ever experienced having a friend, a male friend, that reached out to you that you knew something wasn't right, and you were able to connect with them and help them, um, not even for a resolution, but just help them in support.
Hmm. Um, I have been told that I have.
Um, Not meaning to cut you off, Tyrell,
Oh.
but Stanley, I just want you to give a quick overview of mental health awareness
Hmm.
that you experienced in childhood
Ooh,
and how it affects you as an adult man now. If
ooh.
you don't mind, Tyrell.
I don't mind at all.
So you said childhood.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was okay.
Not to mention that Stanley is the youngest boy of two sisters and five brothers.
Now you got 13 siblings? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Feel
Hey,
like
Shamika, I'm gonna need you to use the Tennessee State math, not the
Hey, I'm
Memphis math.
using
Not the
Memphis
Memphis
math.
math.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You said it feels like it.
it do. I tell you, man. It's a having that many siblings for me is, you know, it was a wonderful experience growing up being a baby. You know, because I was a spoiled one. But my experiences from those years of being a young kid. Okay, my father was military for 26
Hmm.
years in the Navy, and my mother had already had children when she met my father. So I'm my biological father's child, and I have a brother.
Hmm.
So, but to me, we're all brothers and sisters. I don't look at it. We were taught, these are your real brothers and your real sisters. So that's never popped up in my head at all. But growing up, my father, um, being the man of the household and over my other siblings, that was a whole nother level right there, because I had siblings that didn't want to listen to my father, didn't want to be bothered with my father. So I'm watching this as a young kid, not really understanding what was going on, because to me, we were all brothers and sisters. You my brothers, you my sisters. So I never seen any indifference, I should say. Okay. So fast forwarding, probably being 8, 9 years old is probably where I started experiencing trauma. My father would drink heavily, and when he would drink heavily, of course he was a different character. I'm seeing one person as an
Hmm.
8 year old. I'm seeing my father. This is my dad. But on the other side of that table, I'm seeing somebody who's drinking, and I can't figure out why it's changing him. I have no clue about alcohol, right? So here comes the fighting between him and my mother and a couple of my siblings. So, very briefly, that was just a brief synopsis of kind of where I'm going with it, to
Yeah.
kind of paint a small picture, because there's so much to it and I don't want to take up a whole lot of time. But that's a small window from looking inside of my lens. Okay. So, being an 8 year old, witnessing arguing, witnessing fighting, and then it's like the weather would change.
Hmm.
My mom is outside in the garden helping my dad plant tomatoes and cabbage and beans in that lovey-dovey. So I'm like, okay, I'm really confused.
Hmm.
One minute y'all thumping cigarettes at each other, y'all trying to beat each other's brains in. I'm not understanding none of this. So when I was probably and I told this for the first time to my oldest brother last year. I was so traumatized, I would line my mother's shoes up before I went to school in third grade. I think I said fourth grade. In third grade, I would line her shoes up, To me, she was safe when I lined her shoes up. Immediately when I got off the bus, if one of her shoes was out of line, something happened to my mama. That's how I'm processing it. And it was rough, man. It was rough. I lost my father when I was 12.
Mm.
And I told my mother this before she passed. And it was probably 2 years before my mother passed. And I had a conversation with her about life. And I told her some things in my childhood that I experienced as far as what I was feeling, not what I was seeing, but what I was feeling. And I told her when I saw my father being taken away from prostate cancer, this may sound harsh, but it's my truth. I wanted my dad to die. I was two-folded and two-sided with it. I love my father to death. I was a spoiled child, as Denise knows. I got anything I wanted. But even the things that we got, materialistic items, did not suffice what I was feeling and thinking in my brain. It didn't suffice it because I was angry. I was I was mentally in anguish.
Mhm.
I couldn't distinguish right from wrong at a point in time in my life. I didn't understand anything. I just wanted my mother safe. I saw my father put a 38 special to my mom's head, and because she wanted to use the car to go to the grocery store. And it was no, put my keys down, I'll blow your GD brains out. I was a young kid. So for me to process these things in a nutshell and to be where I am today, I can only credit God and the Lord that I serve so high, because there's so much more to the story. Like I said, I could talk all night long, but
Mhm.
I want to give other people a chance to tap in. But that's kind of a small perspective of my lenses and what I witnessed and what I saw and kind of what I dealt with having other siblings being
Mhm.
older than me, processing things probably, well, I know now they
Yeah.
processed it a lot different than I did
Mhm.
because they messed up, man. It's I ain't gonna lie, they having some issues that I don't experience today,
Mhm.
you know. So
I have a question. Why do you feel you don't experience the trauma like they do, or you're not experiencing the same messed up behaviors that they're experiencing? What would you credit that to?
man, that's a great question. I would credit that probably to me being the youngest and not witnessing seeing as much as they saw, maybe.
Mhm.
And plus I was closest to my mother. I
Mhm.
was the closest to my mom. So that attachment that I had to my mom made me feel safe.
Yeah.
She secured me and nurtured me to the point to where maybe I just grew to where they were older. So they grew away and grew apart. But I had more years of comfort being one on one with my mom.
Mhm.
If that may make sense. I
Mhm.
really can't answer that. I don't know, other than
It does. It does. The fact that you said you were younger and maybe you weren't exposed to the trauma as long as they were.
right,
That
right,
makes
right.
sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Now, Stanley and I, we have to limit our phone calls to each other so many times out of a month
yeah,
because I can call and say, "Okay, Stanley, I only got a few things to tell you," and then 3 hours later, we're
yeah.
still on the phone.
One in the
Um,
morning.
um, this I have my opinion of this question that I'm about to ask you, Stanley, but I want you
Right?
to speak your truth. Do
Yeah.
you believe because you took time that you needed with your mom
Mm-hmm.
prior to her passing, do you think some of your healing and the reason why you feel clear today is because you took that time that you needed with your mom? Because I'm sure that your siblings, and we've talked about it, your siblings had the same capacity to spend time with your mom, even in her sickness.
Mm-hmm.
You It was more than just you taking care of mom, but you
Right.
utilized
Yeah.
time with her. Do you think that that played a big part of, because you've been through trauma for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma as a child, trauma as adult decisions that you made in your life that I know about.
For
Um,
sure.
so how did, that's the question. How did that time make a difference in your mental well-being as a young man or man of color?
That's easy. I'm the man I am today because of that.
Mhm.
Very, very simple. You know, the times that I endured with my mom and spent with my mom, not just in her sickness, but before she got sick, I've always had a genuine closeness. That's all I had. You know, I lost my grandmother when I was 5, so I didn't have the grandmother figure. I didn't have the grandfather figure around. You know, when I was older, I lost my grandmother when I was 5, and I lost my grandfather on my dad's side when I was 7. So I didn't have grandparents. So the only person that I could stick like glue to was my mom.
Mhm.
You know, and of course she babied me and nurtured me, and she always gave talks. She always gave the conversations that grandmama would give. You know, that from a nurturing standpoint, from a loving woman, from somebody who loved their children. You know, she gave me that all the way up until her death. There was times when she was taking chemo, and we would sit there and we would have the most wonderful conversations for 2.5, 3 hours as I would watch the chemo drip, and she would just take my mind. She knew what to do. She would take my mind off of watching that bag drip chemo and interest me in something else. So she always knew how to refocus me, to get me off of what I was thinking, you know, because the things that I was thinking, to her it was so minute, because she was dying, that she was shaping and helping me mold into, don't sweat everything that's so small. Focus on the things in your life that you need to focus on, and change those things and shape your life and shape your career in the way that you need to be going in, versus things that may matter, but it's not of importance right now. You can always come back to those things in life. You see what I'm saying? But the things that you need to take care of are the things that you need to take care of. You know, self being wealth, and with your health, those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because I've gone through cancer and all these other things that I've gone through, it was because of her. So having that one-on-one relationship. Now, my other brothers and sisters could have done the same thing, you know, other than, you know, my sister in DC, but it was a choice for them not to do that.
Mhm.
I kind of love to foreshadow my life in so many ways. You know, I knew my father was going to die. I knew my mother was going to die. So why not take advantage of every opportunity that you have? You know, if there was things I wanted to know, if there was questions that I needed answers to that I didn't get, I got those. If there's
Mhm.
things that I wanted to know about her life that I never knew the answers to, I got those,
Mm-hmm.
because time is so precious. And you know somebody's gonna leave. We all gonna leave here, right? We
Mm-hmm.
all know that. So why not just do a little foreshadowing in your life? And you know, they say hindsight is 2020. So I love to apply hindsight. So me spending those moments with my mom was unconditional, man. And it's helped me today as it did yesterday, and it'll help me tomorrow and till infinity, until I leave here. And I cherish those moments, because every tool that she ever gave me, if I go through anything in life, I can pull that tool out of that toolbox and I can apply it in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so important. So we need these
Definitely.
conversations. We need it. We need it. We have to give it to our kids, and other kids as well, man,
Right.
because it's
Right.
so important that we get it.
That.
It's people that don't have the tools.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was going to speak on too. Is as far as what I'm hearing the most coming from you is that multi-generational piece. We have to be able to tap into those different chambers, and it's a blessing that yours was your biological mother, but for the brothers out there that may not have either the parents or even uh,
Sure.
a mom in particular that that can give them that, those things are out there. You can find it, and one of my spiritual coaches always say the universe knows your address. Just wanting that kind of help because it's important, because
Sure.
it's powerful, it's transformational, and it really taps into something that we are into our core, which is a community based people. Our community is everything. So you talk about things like isolation, you talk about things like not being around or having those relationships with friends and loved ones, especially males, other males, where you can tap into these different these different dynamics of life, whether
Mhm.
that be actually experiencing death. I got the privilege, the honor to be able to be with, my best friend during his last days on this planet. And he was 35, 37 years old, dying from liver failure, liver cancer.
Wow.
And so to see, look him in his eyes, and that's going back to the question you were asking me earlier, Denise, about being there for someone, for a friend or family member, um, in this time where I don't have no answers for that. I didn't even want to go. I didn't even know why he was asking me to come over, because it's like, what am I gonna say? I'm loving my life. I'm excited about all these things. I have young children. My brother is dying, and it's times that I would never, ever, ever regret. I'm so thankful that I pushed through and showed up for him, and those conversations that we were able to have, both one on one, but a group of us I got a chance to go over there together, and that stuff changed. It changed my life. It just it's something different about speaking to someone who is so close to that other side.
Hmm.
They don't really have time to sit and talk about all the things that's wrong, because it's like, I'm dying. There's so much finalization of that,
Mhm.
that just triggers something different. And thank you, brother, for taking your time to share that, and share the really the power of having multi-generational approaches to this life thing, and being willing to sit down and engage and sit at the feet of our elders. Man, that is powerful, and that is some of the things that I personally believe is missing, um,
Yeah.
from these conversations,
Yes.
which makes sense to me why things like suicide is increasing, things like mental health
Yeah.
is worsening, because we are losing community. We're shrinking, and it's all about, the more we are, unfortunately, the more we chase that bag, because that bag is so dry and so lifeless. It ends up pulling the life out of us, and we won't even be recognizing it. We're so busy focused on having the things on that checklist that by the time we get them, it's either too late, or we sitting there with nobody to share it with. So you
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
and not to speak to that brother Twitch, but because you brought him up, I just feel like, unfortunately, those are kind of some of the examples that we get to
Mhm.
like look at and say, okay, man, what is it that I have that I can tap into? I might not have his riches, but man, I'm about to find out who I can talk to
Mhm.
before I get to that level, that stage of just like, there's no other answer but checking out. And I'm thankful that I have that I have some brothers, some sisters that I can do that with. And so, yeah, if there's anything I can give or leave with the platform, I hope to inspire people to do that. Just find that sense of community, find that group, that space that you can do that in, because it is transformational.
Well, by you both speaking about the generations, I can share with you, Shamika Wright is and I were for years. Well, it came to me actually in 2018, and I had started moving forward on it in 2019, but then 2020 the pandemic hit. But because I don't know if it's the country life or not, but Stanley and we grew up with elders, and like we intersected with
Mm.
people of all ages, and it was close because if you went over to Tisha May's house and you was cutting up, you got a whooping there. Then you
Yeah.
went on down the street and you got a whooping over here. And Miss Lucille's ain't Dorothy across the street, you got a whooping. So we
Yeah.
grew up really in that where you walk from West Dixon to the Armory, like we did that. So and I'm fascinated with all the generations, and I'm connected. My
Mm.
dad is a baby boomer. I'm Generation X. I have two millennials and two Gen Zs. So I wanted to create something where we have the opportunity of having conversations with one another, because right now we coexist around each other. We
Mm.
just, it's almost like we kind of float around each other. But baby boomers ain't trying to hear what millennials is talking about, and then the millennials think that Gen X is too old, they don't understand, and then Gen Z is just down here by themselves and they don't care what nobody so
Yeah.
the event that came to me, and nothing is my idea, it
Mm.
comes from God, the
Okay.
universe. It just like when we was talking about the waiting room stuff, it just shows up in me. So Conversations of Generations is
Mm.
an event that I had started putting together. And so I was sharing it with Shamika. And she was like, okay, this is what I love about Shamika. Don't say no idea unless you're ready to move on it. Because she's like,
Okay.
let's go. Let's
Yeah.
when you want to do it. You want to do we could do September, And
Yeah.
so in 2023, because what I want this to do is I want it to be an ongoing event, but I actually want it to end up being an annual conference, and it will be ongoing conversations, whether it's about sexuality, whether it's about finances, whether it's about marriages, whether it's about relationships amongst friends, mental health, conversations amongst the generations. So that is something that I will be working towards, and hoping that it just grows, because we need to talk to each other.
Yes.
We need to talk to each other. Um, Even like y'all just don't even know nothing about Stanley yet. This is Big Oak, y'all. I'm getting ready to put your business in the street a little bit.
Hey, go ahead,
This
man. You
this
know,
this is a
I'm
man that was getting ready to hit big time in the rap world. I'm
Mm.
talking about like so close that it's right there. Um, who lost his best friend, who got murdered, who was in a room about to lose his life,
yeah,
but by the grace of God, he made it out and just took off running,
yeah,
who sacrificed time being locked up in the penal system.
yeah,
Like it's so much, y'all. He's so dope.
Mm.
Like that's why we can't talk but a couple of times out of the month, because his he shares a lot with me, and I'm looking forward to more conversations. He's a businessman, a master shirt, jogging suit. He does all of that. And he told me, Denise, when I started this, I didn't know nothing
Mm-hmm.
about this. But his mom even challenged him on that.
yeah,
If
yeah,
this is what you gonna do, do it.
yeah,
Let's go. Still holding him accountable.
yeah,
And
Okay.
so again, these conversations are so valuable to me as a sister, as a queen surrounded by kings, as a mother, because what I do understand is that even though I have the dopest husband that is Stanley's best friend, there will be a time that maybe DJ won't talk to his mom and his dad, but he might call Uncle Stanley, or
Sure.
he might call Mr. Tyrell,
mm,
and he'll be able to have a conversation.
yeah,
My son is in the military. He might not be feeling like his parents know anything at all, so he might call Uncle Stanley. He
mm,
might call Mr. Tyrell. So I love the platforms, just being able to listen and learn from you all, because I am a mother of one daughter and four sons.
Mhm.
I do know that I can have an empathetic spirit for my sons, but I will never know what it feels like to be a man.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do will ever alter that. And my dad was the first one really that put that in my brain and made me understand what he was meaning, because I was the single mama that was saying the song, I'm the mama and the daddy. And it took my daddy to say, you are a hell of a mom, but it
Yeah.
ain't nothing that you could ever do to be the father of your children.
That's right.
And I heard him and I understood that he was not devaluing me as a parent, but
Right.
I'm not equipped to be a father.
Right.
And so I just appreciate these conversations. I look forward to more platforms. Shamika, I know we've been on here over time, um, but
It's
I
no
just
problem. I had one more question because you did bring up something that Stan went through as far as escaping someone that pulled a gun on you. Was that what you said,
oh
Denise?
Yeah.
it was deep.
Can we
No, it was.
briefly talk about that and how it impacted you mentally? And
Wait
then
a
we'll wrap
minute.
things up.
Listen, Shamika, it wasn't someone pulled a gun on him. I'm talking about plastic everywhere, seat right there. You getting ready to get in this seat and we finna wet you. So
Y'all,
that's a difference in somebody pulling a gun on you.
everybody's seen Training Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
When they put Officer Howard in the tub
Mm-hmm.
and his supposed to be friend left him. It was almost like that, except I was in the middle of the room in a chair,
Mhm.
and guys had lined the room up around the wall with guns, and they were ready to kill me. But my partner in rhyme and crime,
Black.
rest his soul right to this day. I was just talking about Denise. I was just talking about him yesterday. As a matter of
Uh,
fact, I
Oh, sexy Black Reggie.
I
still love,
said,
still missing, but he saved my life. He said, everybody thought that he was in there to bring me harm as well. But when the guy that had set that up for me to be killed walked out, then that's when he came out with his gun and he said, if anybody move, I'm gonna light this room up. And he was not playing. So so he was like, yo, man, let's get up out of here. So he got me out of that situation. He saved my life. And it's a lot that goes behind that, because for a long time I felt like I couldn't save his. After he was killed, I went through those emotions of feeling guilty as well, because I reminisced on that. And that was before I went to prison, that accident actually happened. So when I came home after being out for a year, he was murdered. And I felt like I should have saved him. So I was going through all of these emotions. Like, okay, this man saved my life, but I couldn't save his. So to be, what was I, 30, 32? I was 32 years old then. So even then I couldn't process my feelings. I didn't know how to process my feelings and going through those type of emotions like I can today. So yeah, I dealt with a lot. It was a lot to even just go through that situation by itself, having my friend murdered like that. Because he was shot 8 times. Yeah, he was shot 8 times. And I was not there. And I had to reach really, really deep after growing, after getting older, after, tapping in with God even more.
yeah,
Well, what if I was there?
right.
Probably would have been dead too. Who knows? There was probably a reason why I didn't go with him.
Mhm.
So it's a lot we process as human beings, and we don't know. We don't know what God has in store for us. You know, and the infrastructure of the black man is was taught to be silent anyway. That's what we've been taught to do. So I have an understanding of that, and I had to tap in with that years ago because I didn't understand what that was all about. And I'm speaking with slavery and how generational curses has came about in the black man's life. And we ain't got enough time on here for me to get in depth with that one, but maybe that's another conversation too. So yeah,
I'm so excited.
that's a whole.
I have one last. This is my last question for you both. If a man said, you know what, I want to heal and I want to process, what advice would you have for someone that doesn't necessarily process their emotions but wants to start doing so? Either of you can go first.
Call me.
I say.
What if they don't have a
I
Stanley
love
or
that.
a Tyrell?
That's a loaded question. I mean, that's really like a loaded question because everybody processes things different.
Sure.
Some people you may be able to reach with telling a brother that or anybody that, but I think it comes down a lot to, and this is my opinion, I think it comes down a lot to individuality, who you are versus who you want to be versus who you've been. You know, only you can pull you out of anything,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have God first and foremost to do that. When you can't pull yourself out of a situation, you got to talk to that man. And if you don't have him in your life, everything you're going to do is going to be a struggle. So it starts with you. It starts with you and having somebody that's willing to listen to you, because this is my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to so many people when I was in a struggle that turned it into their struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't get no damn where.
Yeah.
You don't get
Yeah.
nowhere. If I'm telling you about what I'm going through, don't tell me,
Mm-hmm.
tell me too. Just
Mm.
listen to me, be heartfelt about it. Let me get out what I need to say. And then, if you can, guide and instruct.
Sure.
But if you're talking to somebody that's not willing to or doesn't have the capability to
Mm.
instruct you and guide you, love you enough to help you, it's a wrap.
I say.
It's a wrap.
See, my spirit knew to let the elder go first. And thank you, brother. That is bullseye. I'm just gonna piggyback off of that respectfully and say some of the techniques that's helped me get to that space. Uh, One of the best people, if you will, to talk to, like my brother just said, yourself. But one of the best ways to do that I found, I will say, is with a journal. I know it's kind of cookie cutter, and people be, oh, you journal, journal, journal. My new iteration or what I've learned this year of journaling is I have different journals for different styles. So I got a journal right by the bed for just like whatever the brain pulls up is coming out. Whatever it is, it's like an unloading. Try not to think. I have a different journal that I'm thinking for like my daughter. I'm always thinking about my daughters. Like, damn, if I ain't here, I want them to see kind of what I was thinking about certain things. So I'm always writing it from a different lens.
Right.
I even be holding back on like details about me and their mom and stuff, and which is weird because I want them to know about love too, but I'll be like, nah, don't tell them you're having sex. Which, anyway, I digress. So having journals and then like having the guts to have like different types of journals as far as what it is you're looking for, because sometimes you can really write out your tears. I mean, you could just
Yep.
put all that pain into, and this is something that I think the rap music is demonstrating as
Yep.
much negativity as it gets.
Right.
These brothers are doing a very therapeutic process by airing it out, by speaking, even though it is giving it power too. So there's that double-edged sword. But there's a lot you can do with your journal. Even having a burn journal where you're writing down that poison that might be up in there that you need to get rid of, and that, some hatred maybe that you can tear up and burn off and let go into the universe. So I think a journal is a very powerful tool to help you tap into that quote unquote emotional side. And then another one that has kind of become cliche now, but is just a personal favorite, meditation. Meditation is, see, the funny thing about meditation, it is the simplest, most complicated thing. I'm gonna just go
Right.
as far and say a black man can do is just sit there. You can't move. You need to sit with your thoughts. And the challenge of letting yourself think. I've gotten afraid from just doing that before. I've broken out into just flat out crying before. I've gotten what I feel is visits from ancestors before, that I know that the voices, so I know what I was hearing, but I, just also thinking like, what? This is not real, fake. Anyway, so meditation has been very powerful. Journaling has been very powerful, and there are ways that you can, there's nobody watching, you just by yourself, so you can be as vulnerable or as closed in or whatever it may be as you want. But it's also a practice. It's like Kobe shooting 2,000 shots before the game. The beauty of doing that repetition
Yeah,
is it allows the body to get used to the release. And
yeah,
the more you practice releasing it, then you might be even better at picking the right person to talk to, which I
yeah,
think is another step of the game. So it's, multi-layered. I think Brother Stan just knocked it out the park, and I just wanted to add some tangibles in there. But I just think that's a great recipe to getting yourself on a journey, and just freeing that mind, because it's really a recorder box, and it'll record and repeat whatever you want it to, including some low vibrational negative. Um, Keep getting yourself talked into the wrong stuff,
right.
because it's starting here. So you can
Absolutely.
do the opposite of that too, by just teasing out some of the good, even if you got to make it up at first and
Yeah,
say, I'm doing fine. I'm rich. I got everything I want. It might not be true yet, but you keep
yeah,
it up. You just
yeah,
keep it up.
yeah,
And eventually you'll be like, damn,
yeah,
I'm actually getting somewhere.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, great. That's really really great because that's all positive energy. You know,
mm-hmm.
you speak of into existence will
Yeah.
eventually come your way. You know,
Yeah.
everything comes to pass in life, negative or positive. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
energy you put out in that atmosphere, man,
Yep.
is something powerful. And just to add to what you said, which was, man, on point, just on point, and very very simply, that's like tunnel vision. I
Yeah.
spoke to Denise about this before, and one of the ways that I overcame a lot of things that I endured was having tunnel vision. And when I had the tunnel vision, it separated me
Mm.
from everybody.
Mm.
Like, when it's almost like we've all heard, when God has something for you, it's for
Mm.
you and not everybody else.
Mm.
Man, 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 let me tell y'all, that is so true. I had so many people, why you want to do t-shirts? Why you want
Yeah.
why you want to do that? And it took
Yeah.
it, but something spoke to me. A spiritual being spoke to me and said,
Mm-hmm.
how about you just release some folks,
Mm.
let them go?
That
Yeah.
was it was Mama Liz. That's who it
Let them
was. It was
go.
Mama Liz.
Hey
Man,
man, I
let
don't know.
them go.
Let me tell you the goodness in it. It worked.
Yeah.
I started letting people go. When I started hanging out with certain people, even if it was just a drink of beer, I don't even drink beer no more. I was
Yeah.
drinking beer all the time, hanging out, going nowhere,
Mm.
wasting valuable time with invaluable, I hate
Mm.
to say it, but invaluable people,
Mm.
invaluable spirits, invaluable souls,
Come on with
invaluable
the
aura,
hashtag. Stop
Mm.
invaluable
wasting
outlet.
valuable time with invaluable people.
Mm.
Hashtag.
You can't do that. And I think that's where a
Yeah.
lot of us are so lost these days because When God puts you on your journey, nobody can part you from that
Mm.
because it's His work. There's no hand more powerful than the hand of God. And once He touches you and lays hands on you, it don't really even matter to me what anybody says anymore. It's like I walk around with a shield. If I hear something negative, like his shirt's too high, so
Yeah.
I'm selling. I just sold 1,000 shirts over here. I'm not worried about what y'all talking about. But I don't even go around these people anymore to even hear that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna tell you this. I have been in a better position since I've done that
Mm. Hmm.
more than in my entire life.
Yeah.
I am pain free. I am headache free. I am
Ooh.
gossip
Man.
columnist free.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know nothing. I don't know. Hell, Denise will tell you if I gotta pull up on the internet at the funeral home to see if somebody done died. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
talk to anybody. I
Yep.
don't really talk to anybody. And I tapped into self, something
Mm.
that was missing. And that's something that we all miss in life. And if you don't get into it, it's gonna be too late. We have to tap into ourselves. Who did
Mm.
God create you to be? It don't matter what He made you or created you to become. He's gonna give you that answer.
Mm.
If you had told me 10 years ago I would have been making T-shirts and selling them, I would have told you was crazy. But that wasn't my plan. That was not my plan. That was
Yeah.
His plan.
Yeah.
And that spiritual intervention came through my mother. When my mother said, you know, once I'm gone from here, you are to live in this house, and you take the middle room and turn that into your office. And once you get on your feet, then you go buy you a brick and mortar if you choose. But if not, just keep doing it in the home.
Wow.
I'm still here in the home, as y'all can see. Can y'all see
Wow.
that? Y'all
That's
see that?
fire. That's fire. Come on with it, man.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Still here. And I'm
Right
peace.
on time.
I'm at peace. I'm in so much peace. I've had more happiness in my life than I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I just had God just said, let a few people go. I'll bring some other people in your life. He
Mm.
reconnected with Denise. What,
Mm.
Denise, what, 6, 7 years ago? If
Mm.
that long? Yeah. About 6, 7 years. He reconnected me with her.
Yeah.
I mean, it don't get no better than that, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm telling y'all my testimony,
That's
you
pure
know,
fire.
and it's only a small increment piece of that.
Yeah, man.
So
Yeah.
it's a
That's
lot to tell.
Dylan though, man. That's top five dead or alive, brother. Thank you.
Man,
Yes.
no doubt. No doubt.
Well, what I do know for sure, um, I look forward to having each one of you, all of you, Shamika, Tyrell, Stanley, on vitamin D and D from A to Z. I know I can't wait to see what Shamika does when she puts this together because she's just dope like that. But I have to say, I'm so honored uh, for my little brothers kings because I'm older than both of you all. I'm honored. Definitely, Tyrell, this your anniversary. I'm getting ready to get you off from here so you can love on your wifey. Um,
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
thank you so much because this is a sacrifice.
Mm.
There's nothing. If I had $2 million to give each of you, it still wouldn't give back the time that you sacrifice. So
Mm.
I
I
wouldn't
think
mind the $2 million though, Denise. I ain't turning it
coming,
down.
Tamika, it's coming. You
It,
already told me,
I ain't turning no 2 million down just because my time gone.
but
Come
I'm
on
saying
now.
it's coming. It's coming. But I want to thank you guys first, and I have to say my best for last. Shamika, thank you, thank
Mm.
you, thank you, thank you for allowing us because this is your space. I know you said we co host or whatever, but this ultimately is your space. Thank you for every time you allow me in your space, along with bringing people you don't have no idea about, but trusting me to
Mm.
bring people that are upstanding, respectful, and honorable